make the assumption that it started. So, I think the whole jam with this testimonial stuff in this series of 10 minutes to insight is that not everybody sees the world like I do, and not everybody sees the world like each other. Like this information that seems so obvious to me, and the information that seems really, really, really obvious to like other people doesn't make any sense to me. And people's like tracks of getting from like point A to point like G or something isn't going to be the same for other people. But the thing is that, like, I guess I should talk a little bit of like how my brain works. Because for me, if I have a problem, the first thing that I do is I try to figure out like how do I get to a solution to that problem. So if I have something wrong, then the first thing I have to do is figure out like how do I fix that problem. And if I can have a set of tools to make it easier for me to navigate through that system of challenges, that is easier for me to handle, because it's almost like what's a good way to say this? There are a bunch of different ways to do things in the world, but I think, at least in like my experience of sort of like how this way of doing things, this has worked better than anything else. And I think it worked better than anything else because objectively, I believe that there's a best way to do something. And if there's a best way to do something, and I've literally just said that like, okay, I have a set of goals and I need to complete those goals, then if I can find the track that brings me to my goal in the fastest and the easiest and the most productive way, then I'm going to do that, because that's what's best for me. And so I think what's nice about it is that having an access to doing things correctly and doing things in the right way is really nice, because a lot of people, they don't even know what to do when they have a problem. And so I think that like it comes to you in a sort of a different way, and that's how I handle it. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but I hope it does, because I liked to handle things in a very direct way, but I didn't know how to do that. And I think that the thing with this thought process, the thing that this thought process does that's different than I think the way that my default worked, because I've grown up in a society that's made me feel a certain way and make me act certain ways, is that it puts me at the forefront of the problem. And it like, I have to sort of, I can't point to anyone else, because I know that everything that's wrong in that moment is because I have like agreed to certain things that people have said, or I've gotten to a certain place because of me. And the only way to get myself out of this place is for me to change me. And nobody else can change me. Like, if someone else tried to change me, it would just be me agreeing to be changed, and that means that I was in charge of that anyway. I think that's also the thing that leads to the most amount of sort of discomfort, I think, for a lot of people, which is weird because it's not a sense of discomfort that I ever felt. And I think that's also something that's worth noting. For me, Andy was my friend, and he was like very logical in a very similar way that I am, because I like to pursue truth. I like to know that things are true, and I like to prove that they're true and know that they're true. And so if you don't care about why something is true, and you don't care that the assumptions that you have match up with the conclusion that you're in, then this is going to be so much more frustrating and so much more heartbreaking than it needs to be. Because if you, I like to think about, I sort of have this small circle of friends who I've attempted to share this with. And I've literally just said that, like, if they have a conclusion, it's like something that they believe in, they have to argue why it's true. Because if you can't prove why your thing is true, then why do you even believe in it? Like, there are people who sort of get to the end of the road and like, the road is broken all along. Like, so many things are wrong with it, and they don't care. that it doesn't work. It's like, why would you not want to drive on a road that's well paved when like your road is just filled with potholes? And I can show you like that is a huge hole, and you're hitting that hole every single time, and the car breaks down, and you pretend like everything is okay, and it's not. So I should probably use specific examples. I won't because like analogies are my jam. Like I'm gonna continue just sort of using it. Hopefully that goes well to somebody, because that's, I don't know, it's how I communicate anyway. So I think that's one of the biggest things that differs, is that because this sort of way of thinking of like tackling a problem by looking sort of introspectively and like, okay, I have to look, what's wrong with me, how do I fix me, blah 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 blah, like I need to fix this problem with myself. If people can do that, then they have to take responsibility for their actions, and if you take responsibility for your actions, then you have to find out what you did wrong. You have to dig deep into something that might make you uncomfortable, and the second that people find something that makes them uncomfortable, they run away, and they they get angry, and they get scared, and I don't know, they're full of fear. And when people are afraid, they lash out in ways that I don't think they would if they were willing to just sort of come to something I don't know, objectively. Like that's what I keep coming back to every time I think of this, is like the fact that, like, like I said, there's a method, and if there's a method, then does there exist a best method? I think there does. So if there's a best way to do something, we need to find that thing and we need to do it. I think this is the best way, so I'm doing it. And like the results of doing the best thing, the thing that I think is the best, is resulting in the best version of my life. So if this isn't the best, then there's only two tracks. It's either if this isn't the best, then there's only one track, is that there's something better than this. So that means that you use the method that you're currently on, of this way of sort of putting me in the forefront, and I use that method to find out what a better method is, and then like boom, I can just go to that new method, and then I would be using that best method. So like it's nice because this way of thinking and this way of sort of tracking is either the best method, and it's going to lead to people having universally better lives if they adhere to it and take responsibility for their actions and look into themselves to make sure that they're held accountable for their actions, because I don't think a lot of people are. Or there's a better method out there, and we get that one using this one. So there's sort of something very comforting in that. Like I when Andy and I were first talking about this, something that we sort of compared it to is almost like versions of arguing and versions of discussing, and like ways that you proceed to talk to people. Like if you had point B and I had point A, because I want to be A, and we were having a discussion, and I sort of, we sort of imagined that, point B is this hot air balloon and point A is this hot air balloon, and we're both sitting in our baskets and we're sort of throwing darts and we're trying to pop the other person's balloon, because it's not that we want to be right, but if we're wrong, we want our balloon to pop, because that means it's poppable. And if we are in a balloon that's unpoppable, then we don't care how many points you throw at it, because it won't pop. It's not going to get hit by something that can break it, because nothing can break it. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that if our balloon is poppable, and I say our kind of in the theme of it, it's encompassing whoever believes in this thing, not just Andy and I. Clearly, Kat falls in this camp, so we're in the basket. So the thing about this that's cool is that if someone pops our basket, what do you do? What do you do when the thing that you believed wholeheartedly is gone? Like you use this method and you think it's the best method and it's making you happier, it's making you feel better, but someone was able to debunk it. But they're only able to debunk it with a method that is more effective than the one that we're currently using. So that means that all we have to do is hop in their basket. And suddenly we're living a better life than we were before. And that's better than the best life that we already had. So that is objectively just going to be a good thing. That's why I think the people who end up believing in this thing, not because they succumb to it and they believe it, they believe in it in the hopes that it will make them better without actually like believing in it, without actually like looking to it, are happier and will be happier. Because the thing about it is that like, it goes back to like what I said right in the beginning, is like the way I think about something is like, I basically think about it as like there's a starting point and you have a list of assumptions, and at the end of those assumptions you have an end line, and then it just implies a conclusion. And so if you believe in a conclusion, the only way for that line of thinking to be correct is if every assumption that you had is true, and every assumption that you have makes sense, and it's something that you can communicate with other people. And it's hard because a true thing doesn't always get communicated in the same way. So if you communicate something poorly, even if it's true, then that doesn't make it less or more true. It just means that someone else needs to come along and sort of fix up your argument. And I think that's also the comforting thing about this, is that if this method or any other method ends up better, this or whatever, like that's the comforting thing, is that this is the lower bound of it. This is making my life better. It's making me feel better. So if it's not good, then there's just a better thing. It will make me feel better. So if someone can pop my assumptions, if someone can sort of take me down, then like I revel in that. Like I'm excited for that, because that means that they get to tell me what I'm doing wrong, because they want me to flourish. They want me to do better. And like, I think that's where a lot of people can get uncomfortable, is that they don't realize why someone is trying to do this for them. Like they think that it's an attack, and it's only being perceived as an attack because, like, again, you're being put in the front of this thing and people are pointing at you and going, you're the person who's doing this wrong. And people don't like to feel like they're in charge of going in the wrong direction. People like to think that they're doing the right thing. But I think that if people sit down and they realize that what they're doing is wrong and what they're doing is hurting themselves and hurting other people, and if we all agree that like everything that we do is connected to one another, and that like if you are hurting yourself, you're hurting other people, and if you're hurting other people, that's not just hurting those like, small subset of people, it's hurting everybody. If those people believed that, there are people who have a method that they think is best and they're trying to help you, then no matter what is said to them, it should be taken with love, even if it seems combative, because the reason that the people are doing it is because they care for them. Because why would you try to discuss something to make someone's life better if you didn't want to make their life better? Because the people who believe this want everyone to be happy and want them to lead a better life. And they can see that there are people who aren't as happy as they could be. And it's not up to the people who are discussing things with the people who aren't as happy. It's not their job to change anything. But that's the reason why I'm doing this, is because it's not my job to change anybody. But it is my job to at least put the information out there and then see what happens to it. Because if you it's weird, because it's not the best thing to do to keep this information to myself. Because if I believe that this is the best thing, then why would I keep it to myself? I need to share it with people. I need other people to see it, because if even one person goes from doing something that, like, if this is the best thing right here, right, and there's better things that might exist, but I don't know, maybe this is the upper bound. If there is anybody who's over on this lower spectrum, who's doing things that aren't as good for them, and they see this, and they start doing what I'm doing, and they better their lives, then everything I just said is worth it. Thank you.